Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. In this edition, we will be discussing everything Tottenham Hotspur. We will also be previewing the Crystal Palace v Tottenham Hotspur game, which of course takes place on Sunday at Selhurst Park, 2 p.m. kickoff. Also on today's show, we'll be looking back at the Europa League win against AZ Alkmaar on Thursday evening. We will hear from singer James Black as he has just released an EP raising funds for the Tottenham Foodbank. We will hear from Tottenham Hotspur boss Ange Postecoglou. We will also hear from Crystal Palace fan channel Back of the Nest and from former Crystal Palace striker Clinton Morrison. We are proud to be the most watched Tottenham Hotspur fan channel on YouTube, and we are very proud to be a part of the TalkSport fan network. Now, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by three fellow Tottenham Hotspur YouTubers on this podcast this evening. We've got Brian Dagul back with us. Brian, good evening. How are you?
All good. Good afternoon here in Toronto, and good evening to you all back home. Yeah, all very good. I hope you're well, Chris, and thanks for having me back.
Pleasure. Great to have you here. We've also got Lee, the Dorset Spur. Lee, how are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, Chris. Thanks for having me on after leading you astray in Budapest. I'm honoured to be allowed back in.
We've also got Harry Scarfe with us for the very first time. Harry, you are very welcome. How are you? Tell everyone about your great channel.
I'm very good, thank you. No, it's really nice to be here, Chris. Really looking forward to it. Yeah, I have my own channel, Scarfe Spurs, if you want to check it out. But really appreciate you getting me on, Chris.
Harry, you're actually up for a couple of awards, shortlisted for the Football Content Awards 2024. Of course, the final is being held at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Excited?
Yeah, I am really excited. You know, it's an honour just to be there, Chris. Yeah, with so many amazing people, back-to-back years as well. So, but to win something would be one step further. Would be fantastic. As you said, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, it couldn't be better. So maybe I might win trophy at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium before the team do. You just never know.
You never know indeed. Well, great to have you here, Harry. Now, someone who needs no introduction whatsoever, let's have a flavour of what this guy does.
Thoughts running through my head. Pochettino is dead. I'm nothing big and distant. I'm doing all and when you want to. Big and Postecoglou. Big and roll. It's your Pochettino. Don't say
I tell you, every single time I see these clips, it puts a huge smile on my face. Of course, it is Stadium Singer and my good friend James Black. James, how are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you so much for having this opportunity. I know it's last minute you got me, and I really appreciate it. I'm really good, man, and thank you. Sorry to bump into the podcast like this, but yeah, I'm honoured to be here, and yeah, that's going to be part of the songs that I've released today, and it's all going to Tottenham Foodbank. Basically, the deal with it is I've had a few meetings with them. They run out of Tottenham Town Hall, and each time I went in there, they were telling me about donations being down, and just the queue was just round the corner of people in need. And the stuff that they do is quite incredible. It's not just for emergency food for the area. It's a lifeline for a lot of people in that area, and they work as for the cost of living crisis for people in the area too. They're very short staffed, donations are down, and more people are turning to them now. So we come together with this EP. I said we'd give it every single penny to them. It's what I'm doing. So you can help by just downloading, streaming. Every single last penny will go to Foodbank. It's not profits, it's everything going over to there. And if you go to their crowdfunder, so if you put in crowdfunder and Tottenham Foodbank, you can donate whatever you wish to for them. So please donate and help however you can. It's an amazing charity. The club work well with them as well, and please give whatever you can. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to come on and talk about it. I really appreciate it, man.
Well, thank you for all of your entertainment, James. I tell you, everyone who visits the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium absolutely loves what you do. What an incredible journey you've been on. Can you just talk us through your journey over the last couple of years working at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium? Because week by week, it just seems to grow more and more and more.
Yeah, I think it kind of, for me, it started off, it just sort of ignited quite early on. I did the Champions League one when we got to the finals. I was a bit lucky there. I started doing it at Wembley. When it was at Wembley, I was even before the stadium, I was doing it. The job didn't really exist. It just, people were playing a few covers. And I said, look, I only want to play Tottenham. I only know Tottenham. I'm not like a amazing musician. I'm just a fan with a guitar. And I'm just Tottenham through and through. And I think the kind of fans apply a value to that, because just like them being up there, what they would do really. So I've just been lucky. The fans have taken me in. Like I say, Tottenham's there, and the music's right down here, if you know. So I'm just using it just to try and help some sort of atmosphere at the ground. And yeah, it's all football and Tottenham for me, and music's a bit of a secondary, more like a vessel to try and get people to sing and join on the journey. And I've been so lucky, and I'm so humbled by the whole thing. Like, it's now supporters clubs around the UK, Europe, America, and it's just, it blows my mind, if I'm honest with you. I feel like the luckiest guy in the world, and every Tottenham fan is just incredible to me, and how they've taken me in is amazing.
Well, you are absolutely everywhere at the moment, James, and the success is fully deserved. Just before you go, I know you've got a gig this evening. The EP has got 5 songs on it, so people can download it via Spotify and iTunes. And if they want to donate separately to the Tottenham Foodbank, they can visit their website and leave a donation.
That's right, yeah. And if you go to crowdfunder/p/Tottenham into the website, then you can donate whatever you feel on top of that as well. Yeah.
James, just before you leave us, of course, this is the preview show for the Crystal Palace game. 7 wins out of the last 8 games. Before you go, just give us a score prediction.
3-1.
3-1.
That's definite as well. It's not a prediction. That's what's happening. So yeah, 3-1. Yeah.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you on the Spurs Chat podcast again very, very soon. Best of luck with everything, and have a great weekend.
Really sound of you. Thank you. Sorry to jump in on your podcast. Thank you, guys, and have a good one. Go on, you Spurs.
Thank you, James.
See you later, James.
See you, James.
Ryan, let's come to you. Let's talk about the win yesterday. Of course, Thursday evening, 3 wins out of 3 in the Europa League for Tottenham Hotspur. Richarlison back on the score sheet, scoring from the penalty spot. Your thoughts on the game?
Mikey Moore. How incredible was that second half performance? First half, we looked good. Obviously, it was very open. That guy there, I've forgotten his name, on the left wing, was giving Archie Gray a torrid time. But we were creating chances. Obviously, Werner created his chance that he should have taken. That second half was electric. Should have been more than 1. But like you said, Chris, 3 wins from 3, that's all we can ask for.
Lee, how are you feeling as a Spurs fan right now?
Well, mate, listen, you've got to take it. When it's good, you have to take it, right? And be happy for it. I'm all about that. I've been a Spurs fan for so long, and I've seen so many false dawns and all the rest of it. Just come to learn to enjoy the good times. And at the moment, there's good times. We're winning matches. We're playing decent football. And you can't ask for any more than that. Not in my view, anyway. You know, I mean, it's just a good time to be a Tottenham fan. You know.
Harry, how are you feeling right now?
I think the guys both summarised it nicely. It's nice to be a Tottenham fan at the moment. 7 wins, as you said earlier, Chris. Our last 8 games, 100% record winning start to our Europa League campaign. 3 wins out of 3. I totally agree. With Brian, I think it should have been more than 1. But we won. That's all that matters. Obviously, Mikey Moore stood out. We got to rest players as well, so it was quite nice. Brian mentions there about Archie Gray struggling. I think it's up against is it Dorku or someone, Porku on the right. But he, as the game went on, we didn't see much of him, because Gray, I think, had obviously learned how to cope with him defensively. So it's really good to see someone at such a young age adapt and learn how to kind of get rid of that strength that they had, because that was their way of getting something from the game was through him. So Gray done well to stop that strength. So no, really, really happy, Chris. Good run of form, just when we needed it as well.
Harry, let's stay with you because this was the starting 11. Forster, Gray, Dragushin, Davis, Udogi, Bentancur, Maddison, Bergvall, Moore, Richarlison and Timo Werner. Now, as I said, 3 wins out of 3 in the Europa League. A lot of changes, 9 on Thursday evening against AZ Alkmaar. Ange Postecoglou seems to be extremely clever at the moment with his team selection. It seems to be working because, when you think back to certain games, like if we were struggling to get a result, a lot of fans would be saying it was too many changes, but this seems to be working at the moment.
It does, yeah, absolutely. I think you got the balance right, and there was the worry because in terms of Coventry, we did struggle to get the job done and relied on the big guns. It was how many changes can we make, and basically kind of get away with it, get the job done. And I think we kind of figured out that was just about all right, and the team done really well. That second team, I think it's been made stronger in the summer. And you've got younger players stepping out. They've got experience in that team. You had a good balance. When I saw it come out, I saw we had experienced heads like Davis and Werner, but also the youth of Bergvall, Moore, Gray coming through, and forgetting the experience of Forster and goal. It just seemed right. We had the right balance. I was really interested in particularly see how that midfield 3 coach, really attacking midfield 3. So he's absolutely getting the balance right, Chris. So we talk about in-game management, and he's been criticised for that at times. I think at times rightly so. Against Brighton, maybe could have done more, could have made those changes earlier, maybe different changes as well. But West Ham, I think his in-game management at half-time to bring Salah on really good in this. I think he got the lineup spot on and the changes when needed, which I know we get on to, really good at half-time to introduce Brennan Johnson, that burst of energy, and then to bring Salah later on in that second half. Again, both had an impact, I think, in making sure we got the victory over the line. So, full credit to Ange. He's got the balance just right.
Brian, a similar question to you. 9 changes, of course, Ange made against AZ Alkmaar. What have you made of all of the changes that are being made in these games? Because when you're winning, it seems like a very clever idea and everything seems to be going well at the moment. It is all about game time for a lot of the fringe players, but Ange is giving opportunities even to the likes of Mikey Moore, and it is about grabbing opportunities, and Mikey Moore certainly did that.
I most certainly did, Chris. And what we'll say is when we had the first game in Europe and he only made the 4 changes, I was like, okay, fair play. And he's not making wholesale like he did Fulham and other games. And then yesterday we ended up with 9 changes. But the manager's got his spot on. He's got to rotate and keep the squad fit. And I think the players did well. I think Bergvall was outstanding before he picked up his what looked like a hamstring injury. I have to say as well, we've all been critical of Fraser Forster. And I think all of us thought, oh no, when his name was on the team sheet. But all of a sudden, he made a couple of great saves, looked a lot more assured. And he got the blend right. I thought 9 might have been way too many and it might have left us a bit open at the back, but the manager got it right, didn't he?
Ryan, at the end of the transfer window, both you and I, we agreed that we felt that Spurs didn't do enough in the transfer window. Yep. How are you feeling about that now? I
still feel that way, but everything has settled in a lot better than I thought it would. Listen, I remember you and I did a show together, just you and I, when the whole Solanke rumour started. And you and I, both of us were a bit puzzled at 65 million for him. I think his work has been outstanding. Apart from the guy, I think what we do need, what has shown, and it shows with what I'm about to say with the window, we just need to get a winger to deliver balls to him in the box, because he's doing so much work outside the box, hold up play, bringing other players in, through balls, but we've not got anyone to feed him and get him some service. I mean, Solanke has been, I think he's been a great addition. Odegaard, we don't know. I still think a winger, a real winger that can cross the ball in 9 times out of 10 and get a good delivery in. But it's working out a lot better than I thought it would.
Lee, when you look at this Tottenham Hotspur squad, and Andrew's certainly giving game time to a lot of the squad at the moment, which is great to see, and certain players taking opportunities. How did you see last night's game? Were you impressed? And who has really stood out for you so far this season, not only in the Premier League, but also in the Europa League? Yeah,
to be honest, I was a bit... I'm a bit old school, I guess, that I always would like to see the big guns on first, get the job done, then give minutes to the supposed sort of kind of second string. But, and I have to be clear on that, is that it doesn't look to me like Ange's looking at those players as second string. He looks to me like he is using all of those players as part of an overall squad, right? So he's using them to the best that he can to give everybody, because you have to think about all these players want to play, right? They all want to play football. They all want to contribute. They've all got to stay fit. They've all got to stay back sharp. So you can't just stick with the same 11 all the time. We know that these days. That's why we've got all the substitute stuff and everything. So for me, I think it's the right thing to do. But as an older guy, it still fills me with dread when I think when I look at it and think we've got all these teenagers and Fraser Foster in goal and all the rest of it, and I'm like, oh, this is a bit too much for my poor old ticker. But like I said before, Foster was brilliant, to be honest with you. He was one I was really worried about it, but he's come in. The 2 games he's come in, he's played really, really well. He's made good saves. He hasn't really cocked it up at the back in the passing out or anything like that. So I think maybe I need to wind my neck in a little bit on it, you know. I guess the one thing, obviously, the elephant in the room is obviously Timo Werner. And I know we're going to talk about that later on. But that was the one that was really worrying me as well, is like, could he actually put in a performance? And when he started, he put in that great ball for Mikey Moore. And had he scored that, brilliant ball. And then he got that opportunity one-on-one with a keeper, absolutely fluffed his lines. And to me, it looked like that was it. It just, his confidence just went bleh. And that was it. He was kind of out of the game after that. And the right decision to take him off, because when you look at what Mikey Moore did as soon as he came on, that's desperately got to seal the fate for Timo Werner, certainly in that game. So, for me, that's kind of how I saw yesterday. In terms of players that have impressed me so far, there's been quite a few actually that I thought have done really, really well. As Brian said, Dom Solanke, I thought has been excellent. Against West Ham, I thought he put in a brilliant performance without an assist, without a goal. But what a performance from the big man. And I 65 million quid may be the money, but that's what you're going to pay for a decent player at that level. So for me, I've been really impressed with him. Archie Gray, I look at that kid, 18 years of age, seeing up close and personal as we were in Budapest, like just watching him move and his poise on the ball, thought was amazing. For such a young guy. So really impressed with him. Sarr, I think I've been impressed with him in places where he's done really, really well. So I think there's too many to kind of single any individual out. I think there's been a lot of really good performances across the board, to be honest with you.
Harry, that's great, isn't it, what Lee says there? Because so many players seem to have stepped up and are given absolutely everything. And it seems to be a very, very different feel as well at the football club this season to last. I know, of course, we started extremely well in that opening 10 games of last season, but of course it fell away with a lot of injury problems and what have you. We have had injury problems, but Ange and the football club seem to have dealt with them so much better. Who has really impressed you and perhaps surprised you so far this season?
That's a good question. I think Lee mentions, and so does Brian, some players that stood out. I mean, Solanke, a good one. As the guys have said, West Ham, no goals or assists to show for it, but a complete striker's performance. His hold up play, his movement, and his creativity. If you look at all the chances, already big chances in that game, they all do come directly from him. So I think having that number 9 will be big for us in terms of getting that second goal, killing the game, but just also, sometimes you might have to go route one, just hold the ball up by a little bit of time. And I think you need that regardless of whatever way you play. But the one that surprised me the most, and I did think it would be a big season for him, but he, for me, certainly hit the ground running, and that is Kulusevski, who I think has been our player of the season. I think, we all, when we thought about him going in this new position, were like, it makes sense, it's probably going to suit him better, but I didn't think it would click just as quick as it has. So he's been really impressive for me. Bentancur as well, another player who obviously been hampered by injuries a lot. Again, I thought it would take him a while in the season to get up to kind of grips with the team and the system, but he's come in and done really well. So now I've been impressed with with everyone really. There's no one that I would say. I mean, some would say Werner, but there's no one I've gone, okay, they're absolutely shocking. So there's been a lot of players that glued together really nice. He started well, and also we talked about young, exciting talent, Gray, Berger, who I think in stints have done really well. Lee mentioned Sarr there as well. When he's come on, his energy as well looked really good. And the end of last season was a little bit worried about him. I think maybe he played too many minutes, gone off the boil a little bit, it seems. But this season, back together, and it looks really good. Brennan Johnson as well. Talk about surprising. Where did that come from? All those goals, keep it going well. It was 7, games in a row he scored or had a goal contribution. It's really, really good to see. So no, Chris, it's good to see the system working and players stepping up to the plate for Ange.
Harry, of course, we have been on a great run. This is Postecoglou's record as Spurs boss right now. Games 53, wins 29, 8 draws, 16 defeats. That is 46 Premier League games, 2 League Cup, 2 FA Cup and 3 Europa League. Now, of course, while we're on this winning run, everyone is right behind Ange Postecoglou. But after that Brighton defeat, of course, we were 2-0 up at half-time, lost the game 3-2. There was a lot of criticism aimed at Ange Postecoglou again. And earlier on in the season, when we lost games like against Newcastle, Ange was receiving a lot of negativity from the fans. Is that fair? Because how would you describe Ange Postecoglou's time? Surely we've got to give this guy time, patience, the tools.
We have, absolutely, Chris. We've got to give him the time. I think some of the criticism, as I said earlier, is justified. But the way I looked at it, and I kind of been thinking about this for the last few weeks, starting another project under a new manager back to square one is not what we need right now. Whatever you think about Ange Postecoglou is really bold style, I like to call it, die on that hill kind of thing, Ange ball. I think you have to go with it for now. I think that there's no better alternative. There's no quick fix. And I think, like Brighton, to probably, the criticism was justified in terms of there's not a lot of activity from that sideline where the game, for us anyway, I think as fans, was visibly slipping away from us. A lack of managerial influence in the game to in-game management. If you like, of course, some people, take it way too far. And, so I think also players on that pitch against Brighton, you use as an example, Chris, they have to take responsibility and not having the backbone to go, look, we've been awful in the second half. How can we get back in this game? It shouldn't always be on the manager to influence the game. Those players on the pitch were good enough to defeat Brighton. I think we all do know that. So, it's a balance of both. But I think Ange is the right guy. He needs a lot of time. I don't think it's all going to click into place like that. My only criticism will be, about, I know it's been said a lot, but a plan B. I'm not saying it has to be lump it up the field or anything like that, but if you get figured out how you're going to adapt it, we saw Gary O'Neill go on Monday Night Football, and the way he talks and his results against us suggest that he's found out an effective way to not only get a result, but also to win against us under Ange Postecoglou. So how do we counter that? How can we find out their weaknesses? How can we change it up a little bit? So, a few criticism like that of him, and maybe been, some would say not so lively on the touchline, but all that matters is that we're getting the results. I think he's got it all up here, and I think the players are totally behind him, seeing him as this kind of father figure. So, of course, nothing's going to be perfect like that. And you saw that, that stat you brought up there, Chris. Probably if you ask him as well, I think he says too many losses in there, too many times that those losses could have been draws, could have been wins. A lot of our problems last season, not getting the second goal. Solanke for me solves that problem straight away. Johnson's confidence, his form as well, and other attacking talent stepping up to the table. Kulusevski's new position. But no, I think some criticism is justified. But at the end of the day, he's the right man for now, and I certainly do believe in him.
Ryan, what are you making of Ange Postecoglou's time at Spurs? Because Harry mentioned there about a plan B.
Yep.
There was no bigger plan B than last weekend against West Ham United taking off James Maddison at half-time.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I think what the criticism is, I think a lot of us or a lot of fans will say some of the things he says in press conferences are, you're just thinking, why are you saying that? And for instance, he said making subs at half-time against Brighton doesn't make a difference, doesn't make an impact. Well, in the last 2 games, I think he's realised or made adjustments. I mean, that wasn't just a discussion in the dressing room at West Ham, was it? You saw on Match of the Day, he was walking to the tunnel and literally said, "Sir, you're going on." So when people saying he's only got no plan A, yes, you can look at it that way. But then we've looked at it when people were saying stop inverting the wingers. There have been a few games where he hasn't inverted the wingers and he's kept them out wide. So he is making subtle changes. And listen, after the Brighton game, the things he was saying, and I stand by every single manager. I've never turned my back on a manager and never will. That was a time where I was like, what are you saying? What are
Not
you
even
saying?
Nuno.
No, didn't even turn on Nuno. Didn't even turn on Nuno, mate. I was there at the Manchester United game when something got sung, which I loved every single second of it. But didn't turn on Nuno. But I think Ange Postecoglou, I've kept saying we've kept firing managers after 18 months, 2 years, whatever it may be, and having to restart a process. How are we going to get this format hasn't worked? The only way we're going to hopefully end this trophy drought is by sticking with the manager, letting him have the time to insert his philosophy, put his blueprint down, get the players in, and see where it goes. And I will forever stand behind Ange Postecoglou.
Ryan, I didn't think that you'd be the guy on this podcast this evening to mention trophies first. I didn't think it would be you. Now,
if that was a bet, I would have won it.
I love talking about trophies. Now, let's talk about a trophy, the Europa League, because, of course, Spurs are, sitting second at the moment in the Europa League, 9 points from 3 games. Now, how confident are you that Spurs can go all the way in this competition? Because even former boss Jose Mourinho has come out and said that Spurs and Manchester United are the favourites. Do you see Spurs as the favourites? Can we go all the way?
Yeah, I mean, we should be the favourites. We should be because of the side of us. But do you know what? It came to the way with our squad, with how Ange manages to rotate, especially in this period. I mean, in the coming week, we've got Man City, then we've got Villa, then we've got Galatasaray. Now, if that's not 3 of the biggest games to show game management and making sure he's got the right players available for that game, I don't know what is. And you saw with 9 players rested yesterday, and suddenly obviously out to recuperate a bit more from the injury, it looks like he is managing the team a lot better. And if we can maintain this and stay a little bit more injury-free than we have done, especially with our wingers, then why not? And then if we get to the advanced stages, the January window opens, who knows what's going to happen? You never know with us. It could be a blinding one or it could be a non-existent one. But I think if Ange Postecoglou can rotate the squad well enough and keep doing this and keep them hungry, why can't we get to the latter stages or the final, or at least win it?
Let's go to a clip now from Ange Postecoglou talking about Mikey Moore's star performance against AZ.
Look, he's ready to start any game. It's just, like I said, I just feel that, especially with young players, he's got to be, really careful about, their introduction into senior football. It's not like he's, even last year he didn't really have a full season of football. He had quite a few injuries, or a couple of injuries that left him out. He went from under 18s football to playing very little under 21s before we integrated him. So you have to look at that. I think he's still physically growing, and you have to take that into account. So I think he's ready to play, start a Premier League game for sure. But it's about, for me, it's about making sure that for us, what we want to do is continue to kind of develop Mikey in the right way, give him the platform to keep improving. And so far, whatever we've asked of him, he's made a real impact, and the plan is to continue to do that.
Ryan, let's come to you on Mikey Moore, because he has played in 3 Premier League games so far, a total of 21 minutes. No starts in the Premier League so far. In the Europa League, he's played 3 games, 2 starts, 183 minutes played, 60% shot accuracy. Now, as you mentioned, Heung-min Son is out of the game against Crystal Palace on Sunday. Would you start Mikey Moore in this Premier League game at Selhurst Park?
So first of all, I have to say, I think what Ange is doing with Mikey is absolutely spot on. Spot on. I think for the foreseeable, Mikey Moore has to start every single Europa League game. And I do mean every single one. I don't think he's going to... I don't know if I put it this way. If Odebear's fit enough, I would start Odebear. Let him get... We know he's coming back from injury, but he's got that bit more Premiership experience. And then bring Mikey on after 65, 70 minutes, a tired Palace, and bring them on. I think Mikey Moore, he has to gain his moments, gain his minutes. And I think the Europa League, this is why I was saying last season, I wanted us to be in the Europa League more than the Champions League. So players like him will get the minutes, will get the game time, will get the experience. we all know this kid is a super talent, and people outside of Spurs saw him in the international tournament and saw that the hype is real and saw just how special this kid is. And I think you start him Europa League and you increase his minutes in the Premiership. So I would start with Odegaard if fit, but if Odegaard isn't fit enough, I would rather start Mikey Moore than Timo Werner, because he did more in that 15 minutes than Timo Werner did in the whole game.
Right, we'll come on to talk about Timo Werner in a second.
Yeah.
But where do you think these players rank in the in the order now? Because do you think that Mikey Moore has now taken over Timo Werner in terms of getting in there first?
I think how could he not? How could he not? And the good thing that we saw, which I also like with Mikey, is obviously he played the first half on the right and was very, very busy and was involved in a lot of things. But then we saw him in the second half on the left, and he was terrifying. He was terrifying for that defence. They're like, what the hell do we do with him? So it showed that he's available for both sides. We keep thinking if Johnson doesn't start, okay, it's pushing Kulo out wide, which I wouldn't want because he's been so effective in his new position. Mikey Moore, I think, has gone very, very high in the pecking order for both flanks.
Lee, let's come to you. Staying on the subject of Mikey Moore, Ange Postecoglou said he is ready to start any game. It's exciting. Everyone takes enormous pride at the football club. The whole club feels good about this situation. Hopefully, I'm still the manager that benefits from him being at the club when he's 2021. He talks about Mikey Moore possibly playing 15 to 20 games this season, which will be meaningful. What have you made of of Mikey Moore so far, and would you like to see him start this game on Sunday?
I think you can't help but be impressed, right? I mean, the kid is unbelievable. For a 17-year-old kid to be, and it's not just about his football ability, it's about his mentality as well. Everyone's talking about how humble he is, how kind of down to earth he is, how keen he is to learn and all the rest of it. And I think that's really key for someone like that, getting this opportunity to play, Premier League football, Europa League football, whatever, at the highest level. He needs to have the right mentality. And I think managing his expectations is the right thing to do as well. And I think that's probably why they want to be a bit careful about how they utilise him, how they use him. He's a young guy, still growing, still developing and that. Would I like to see him start against Palace? Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to see him start any game because you just love to watch that kind of player play, right? The Bowles, the Hoddles, the Gazzas of this world. And he, for me, he's got that potential to be that sort of player, right? But at the same time, as fans and as people that managing him, you've got to make sure that you do the right thing by him so that he can reach that potential, rather than all that expectation being sort of lumped on his shoulders and kind of ended up breaking him, because how often do we see that where, players they start to get really good and then the pressure on their back and kind of get invading their life and turning things upside down. And we've seen it with Phil Foden, for instance, who's a good example of that. And I wouldn't want anyone to go through that kind of problem. But in terms of, do I want to see him play? Yeah, absolutely. I want to see him play. Do I think he should play? I think he should play part of the match. I do think he'll want to, Ange that is, will want to get some minutes under Odegaard. He came on late in the game yesterday, coming back, and he's got to manage that scenario as well. So I think we could probably see Odegaard get a bit of a start maybe, and then Mikey Moore coming on towards the end. As Brian said, I think, with Palace being a bit tired or whatever, hopefully, and kind of running ragged. But then, I don't know, Ange could go the other way, could just do it the other way round, right? So we'll have to see on the day, I guess.
Harry, is it Mikey Moore or Mikey Neymar?
I mean, after that performance, it's certainly Mikey Neymar. That 15 minutes in particular, 15, 20 minutes is really good, grew into the game. I think it was quite quiet, to be honest with you, in that first half on that right-hand side. But as soon as he moved to the left, and saw it at half-time, change was quick. It just felt like, unleashing someone, unleashing a dog off their lead, really, really impressive. And definitely our main kind of main attacking point in that game, and someone 17 years of age, I think that's quite special. I don't think it's right or fair on him to make comparisons to top players and kind of what he can achieve. And also I think that sets a bar as well to what he can achieve. So it's really, really good. But let's stay humble here. You know, Dele Alli, I know it's a completely different situation, but you know, once had a bright future ahead of him, now has a bright future behind him. Obviously achieved a lot in his career, but still, you know, he had the world at his feet. But now it's all kind of behind him, which is a real shame. So we've got to be careful. I think, Ange, we've got the right manager, a really professional, experienced guy, the right kind of manager to handle Mikey Moore in the right way. And I think the way he speaks gives me a lot of confidence it'd be introduced slowly. But as good as someone like, I don't like to necessarily use the example because it's Arsenal, but Bukayo Saka with Arsenal, I think you've got to a point where he's probably one of their best, if not their best players, relied on far too much, but then he's going to get more susceptible to injuries, like we've seen recently. They're relying too much and they can't get the best out of him that way. They've now got no one to come in and replace him and are really stuck. So they don't also end up in that kind of situation. But he looks really good. But against Palace, for me, it probably would, as both the guys have said, it probably would be Odegaard from the start, presuming he's fit, and introduce more and that pace that, and excitement, that confidence that he showed against AZ. To really terrorise Crystal Palace and their defence, which has really struggled to gel this season, having lost Anderson. I think it was a massive mistake. It really hasn't gelled Dean Henderson in goal as well. It's a disjointed and really uncomfortable backline, and Mikey Moore could be perfect off the bench.
There seems to be a lot of players at the moment going in the right direction and putting in some great performances. But one player who is struggling at the moment is Timo Werner. This is what Ange Postecoglou had to say about Timo Werner after the AZ game.
Look, it's hard to say. Look, he's definitely down in confidence. You can see that. Like I said, he's it's a difficult thing to get out of. Sometimes you kind of feel like the weight of the world's on your shoulders. All we can do is try and sort of support him and keep trying to get him to a place where he feels a little bit more confident with certain things. It does sometimes. I mean, he's played a great ball in for Mikey to score early, and if that goes in, maybe that it's an assist for him. It gives him a lift. It doesn't happen. I think it happened at Fred Varos as well. He's played a great cross into Will Lancashire and just missed. So these kind of things happen. But at the same time, he needs to find a way out of it because, for us, in those positions we need players to make an impact. And, I thought in a couple of moments he really kind of lacked some self-belief that we need to try and instill in him somehow.
Harry, let's come back to you on Timo Werner. What have you made of Timo Werner in a Spurs shirt?
I think he done really well last season, and for me, I think it made sense to kind of bring him in till the end of the season. We had problems in that area, just had a bit of depth, added that pace, and someone who I thought at the time really suited the system. Not someone I expected to be, seen at the club now necessarily, but on loan, I didn't see a problem with it at the time. Now I look back and I go, maybe it wasn't the right thing to do. I still don't necessarily know the answers to that, but Ange, I think, says it nicely there. It is a confidence issue, and although that he should be supported through that, I think the club are doing that, and Ange is doing that as we speak right now. But also, he's a professional footballer. He's on a wage. We have high expectations this season, and you have got to eventually snap out of it. By all means, give the support. We've seen it with Johnson. We can support you, but this can't be continuing in 10, 15 games time. We need to see a light at the end of the tunnel. If you like. So I do believe it is a confidence thing. I'm not saying that this, Werner's got bags of abilities. He should be starting every week, but I do believe a goal, an assist will give him a little bit of confidence. He'll be more confident with the ball, find himself in the right positions. Because yesterday there wasn't a lot that went right for him. His touch at the moment, his passing, he's not willing to take on a man. So just little things like that I just think that the Werner can bring off the bench. I don't think he's necessarily the long-term answer or anything like that, but I do believe it is purely a confidence thing.
You think it's a confidence issue, Harry, rather than is he good enough or not?
Yeah, I think so. And whether he should be at the club or not, I think you can put a reasonable debate and argument up, for or against him being here. But I think he's here. I think there's something we've got to get our heads around. It's how can we get the best out of him? And I think you can see it. I think if it's really visible, his head's down. As simple as I watched the huddle as we usually do before the game, and he's the first to leave that, not got a lot to say, not making eye contact with players, just little things like that. And as I said to you, Chris, I don't think he necessarily, even a player in confidence, he should be starting every week. We see what Mikey Moore's capable of. I think Odegaard has something to offer. Son's still proving he can do it at 32, but I still think Werner is an option, even if it's just till January, just to the end of the season, isn't the worst thing. But it is, I do believe it's purely a confidence thing, which is a shame. We have a few players like that, and that's fine. Some players rely on confidence more than others. I think it affects everyone, even like Harry Kane. If he's missing loaded chances, he's not going to be as confident in front of goal. So hopefully over time, Chris, he gets a goal, a scrappy goal. And I don't think he's going to go on and score 10, 15 goals. He might chip in every now and then, get more assists to his name, and just have more confidence to take on his man.
It's funny, when he scored that goal at Brighton, which of course got disallowed, the huge sigh of relief on his face, but then of course it got disallowed. Brian, what have you made of Timo Werner this season? Because Andrew said there, down in confidence, he's got to find a way out. How does he find a way out? Because taken off at half time, he looked very, very disappointed, naturally. The crowd, most of the crowd get behind every single player. I've never, ever in my life booed a player or criticised a player, in the stadium, because anyone who wears that Spurs shirt, I want them to do well. Yeah. However, it is very, very frustrating for all of us fans when you have some glorious opportunities, and like that shot on Thursday, it was no better than or no more powerful than a back pass. It is frustrating. How does Ange get the best out of someone like Timo Werner now?
Do you know what? It's you look at him when he was at RB Leipzig, the first attempt. He was absolutely scintillating. Those kind of finishes were in the back of the net. Turn around. I think this is a lot more than confidence now. I don't know. It's insane. If you look at it as well, he's had these chances against Manchester United, where there's a couple where it's 1-on-1, and he passed it straight back to the keeper. Where it could be a confidence issue is how do you break that confidence? I think, if anything, it's now got to be from the bench, final 10 minutes, whatever it may be, come on. Because if you keep him on like this and he keeps missing these chances, in the Premier League, that could be cost dearly. We got away, obviously, we got the win yesterday. But how many more times are you going to... first of all, the ball from Bergvall was outstanding. Like, literally... And he does the hard bit. He arced his run, did all the hard work, got there, and for the easiest part, it was just the weakest, tamest shot. And I think it's a lot more. I think there's a lot more. And it could be mentally now. And we've heard that footballers have spoken to people about life and footballing issues and the pressure and everything. I don't know if something's needed, but this could be costly. And do you know what it is as well? At Brighton, he actually did well. He ran the fullback ragged. He can run with the ball superbly, but when it comes to passing, crossing, and shooting, this confidence just comes and it just goes, and it costs us dearly. I think it's a lot more than confidence, and we can't just say, do you know what, start against people in the Europa League and try and get this out of your system, because that's not even working.
When Heung-min Son is going to be out this game on Sunday, though, Brian, and if Timo Werner doesn't start, does that not dent a player's confidence even more?
Do you know, this is why Ange gets paid the big bucks and has these decisions to make. Because it's like, right, do I try and show faith in the player? Do I try and find a way to get him amongst the goals? How many times do you do it before you say, no, it's not working, I need to think about the team and the 3 points ahead?
Absolutely, yeah.
And then you look at it, and is he thinking, do you know what? I've tried you starting. Now I've got to try you from the bench, because from the start, it's just not happening. All I will say, apart from that cross, which that cross was magnificent to Mikey Moore, it was fantastic. He lost the ball. He gets the ball trapped under his feet. He just looks, as the ball comes to him, he looks petrified. And maybe for his own good, he needs to have the stage fright taken away and then just been put in and gone, right, 10 minutes, get on, run them ragged, see what you can do, because starts are not doing it.
Let's hear from Ange Postecoglou, giving the team news ahead of the Crystal Palace game on Sunday.
Yeah, last night all good. No issues out of last night. Obviously, bit of fatigue with some of the boys because I haven't played for a while, but all good. Sonny, he's still not right. He's still not feeling 100%, so he won't train today, so unlikely for the weekend, and we'll see how he is beyond that.
Lee, Ange also said that Jed Spence will be out for this game. He's back in training next week. What changes do you think that Ange Postecoglou will make ahead of this game? How many changes do you think he will make compared to the last Premier League game against West Ham?
I would suggest he'd probably go somewhere close to what he did, because that's pretty much his favoured team. Obviously, Sonny being out is going to be the key question, right? As to what he does with that. The rest of it, I think, it kind of picks itself. All those guys, apart from Maddison, maybe have been rested. Sorry, dogs are going mad. Have been rested. So the question then is around: is Maddison starting? Does he stay in this team? Or do we kind of give him a rest and bring him on in the second half, maybe, and give Sarr the first half and see how that goes? But I think the core of the team is pretty much there. I think there'll be changes as the match goes on. I think obviously Richarlison may well get an opportunity to come back in to keep his momentum going, get his fitness up. I said that we've already said about Odegaard probably needs some time as well. So. But I guess, pretty much when you look at that team, they didn't do much wrong, did they, against West Ham? So you think that's, with most of them having a break, it seems likely it'll probably go back to that.
Could Richarlison not come in on the left-hand side, Lee?
He can do. I mean, he can do, and we've seen him play there. I personally don't think he's at his best there. I think he's far better in that striking role. I think he's great at kind of riding others up, closing the ball down, chasing things down, forcing errors and that sort of stuff from that position. And we've got Mikey Moore and we've got Odegaard, so there is an opportunity to give those guys minutes and still give Richarlison some time in his favoured position. So I don't think he needs to be there, and I don't see him doing a whole game at the moment because he's come back. How many times has he come back from injury now? This time they wanted to take extra time to make sure that this is the last time. So I think they'll still be a little bit cautious around chucking him in for too long, for too much of the game.
Harry, talking about Richarlison, Michael Bridge from Sky Sports, talking to Ange Postecoglou in the press conference ahead of this game, said that whenever he's actually been involved for you at Spurs, he has performed well, but the injuries have just been an issue. It has been frustrating, isn't it? Because when we've needed that competition, when we needed to be at full strength, I know a lot of teams have a lot of injuries, but Ange has been very, very unlucky in terms of injuries, particularly in that final third.
Yeah, no, he has been very unlucky, definitely. And we see other managers complain a lot about injuries. That Ten Hag can come out, we're being limited by injuries. I think that excuse in particular by him is used far too much. And that is, I suppose, positives and negatives to the way that Ange kind of deals with it. He doesn't believe in any of those excuses, which is obviously good. Get on with the job. I'm all for that. But that does, I believe, mean more criticism does come his way because he doesn't take those excuses, doesn't blame the officials or injuries or anything like that. But in terms of Richarlison, I mean, we talk about with Werner getting the balance right between supporting the player, getting the best out of him, but also the best benefit for the team, because like with Werner, I think right now for Werner not to be in the team is probably for the benefit of the team because of his confidence, because he's not doing well. And I think it's the same with Richarlison in terms of injuries. How long do you give it? Because he's talking about someone who, again, is a confidence player but has been injured a lot. And I'm really happy that he's got his penalties scored. Really happy he's back at competition. Keeps Solanke on his toes. Competition for other places and just ultimately that depth that he brings, because he can play a couple of different positions. Really happy with that, but he needs to keep himself fit now. That's the thing. He gets injured again, and I think we have a problem. He can't be, if we want to win the Europa League, you want to get Champions League football, try and juggle both. We need two fully fit strikers. Got to have a striker who's been injured 3-4 times in a season. So it's a big season for him in that aspect. Can he chip in with the goals? How many starts will he get? But I would be opposed to playing him on the left. I agree with Lee. I don't think it's his best position, but we talk about confidence and momentum. Why not? Why not keep that going? Feed off Solanke. and cause problems to that Palace back line. I don't think it'd be the worst idea in the world because Odebear's just come back, and I think to play any more than an hour would probably be too much for Odebear. I don't think it'd be right for Moore to start after playing 90 plus minutes against AZ Alkmaar. And I don't think it'd be right at this moment in time either for Werner to start. So, as Brian says, that's what he's paid for, these difficult but great decisions at the same time. But yeah, he's been unlucky with injuries. There's no secret about that.
Now, of course, Crystal Palace have played 8 Premier League games so far this campaign. They've drawn 3 and they have lost 5. So they are winless in this campaign so far. And Spurs have won 6 out of our last 7 games in all competitions, of course, losing to Brighton. Let's get Ange Postecoglou's thoughts on Crystal Palace.
Look, it's always dangerous in the Premier League. You just mentioned the Brighton game. There's never really any games where you go in there and you're thinking that it's going to be a comfortable afternoon or evening. And especially away from home, Premier League is always challenging. Like you said, they're going through a tough spell, but I've got no doubt they'll come out of it because they do have some quality in the front third, and that they're a hard-working team. And I think for us, what's important is that we're on a good run. We've been on a good run for a while, and we want to continue that. And the basis of that good run has been, just how hard we work and sort of sticking to our principles.
Ryan, let's come to you. What have you made of Crystal Palace so far this campaign? Because they're sat in 18th spot at the moment, 3 points from 8 matches. Behind them, Southampton and Wolves, 1 point each, respectively. Oliver Glasner came in last season, seems to do a fantastic job. They went on a winning run, looked a very, very decent outfit. Of course, Elise then went off to Bayern Munich. Eze was linked to Tottenham Hotspur for a long, long time. I think a lot of us would have liked to see Eze come through the door. Didn't happen. Might happen in the future. You never know. But what have you made of Palace this season? Disappointing.
Very. I mean, after the way they finished last season, you're like, oh my God, this could be a big season for them, at least top half or maybe even challenging for the Conference League. It's been night and day there. It's been absolute night and day. Elise is a huge loss, isn't he? He is a massive loss for them. And it wasn't just individually. I mean, him and Eze had the partnership where it was kind of like Son and Kane. They just knew each other's game instinctively and were always there to support each other. I will say, whenever you go to Palace, it's the one fixture or one of the fixtures in the Premier League that I always dread, because you just never know what Palace is going to turn up. You never know how their fans in that bottom corner are going to be, and they are very, very passionate and very, very hostile. But yeah, if someone had said to me at the beginning of the season that's their form they currently would be in, I wouldn't believed it. I would not have believed it. But here we are. And the one thing I will say very quickly about the lineups is I think that the team picks itself, apart from Sonny, who replaces him. But also, I think the big question now is the midfield 3. Does he go Kulusevski, Bissouma, and Maddison? Or does he go with Pape Matar? It's good to see that he actually went more defensive when he saw something. I thought Maddison was great yesterday, absolutely brilliant. But against a weak or Palace team that aren't winning, does he go attacking with Madders? Or does he go with Sarr? It'll be intriguing. But yeah, Palace are not the team that we all thought they would have been based on last season.
Lee, what Brian says there about that midfield trio, I think it was 28 different combinations last season. Incredible number. Do you like the fact that he keeps swapping it around?
Do I like it? I guess you like to see consistency and you like to see what's working, but I don't tend to think that any of the combinations that he's using currently are letting us down. Like Bentancur's been playing really well. Bissouma's playing better this season, scored a couple of goals. Sarr has been one of the players that I think has been really good. And Maddison, even though he came off after 45 minutes the other day against West Ham, I think someone said to me that he'd still created more chances than any other midfielder in that Premier League weekend. So he weren't particularly playing badly. It just needed changing for that game. So I don't think any combination is particularly bad. It's just I guess that tactical about what do you need? Obviously, from a Maddison point of view, you need him there to unlock those defenses on those low blocks. That's what I've always kind of wanted from him, is that kind of thing where someone's countering at you, and then you need someone like Sarr in there to kind of break it up. So it kind of depends on who you're playing and how they're playing as to what works the best. So to be honest with you, I'm not against, I'm not against, it's not a case of saying I'd rather Bentancur over Basuma, if you see what I mean, because I think both of them are playing particularly well. And of course, then you've got Kulu in there doing what Kulu's doing at the moment, and it's all looking pretty strong in there, to be fair.
Lee, let's get your thoughts on the opponents, Crystal Palace, because 3 points from 8 games equals their worst start to a top-flight campaign. Only 6 teams have had more shots in the Premier League this season than Palace's 115, but they are the division's lowest scorers with 5 goals. And Eddie, dare I say it, Eddie Nketiah has gone almost 13 and a half hours without scoring in the Premier League. What have you made of them this season?
See, now you've just really put the mockers on that, ain't you? By saying that. That's just typical you to say something like that. To be honest with you, I mean, it can't get much worse for them, can it? For a London team, they're not a team that I really dislike. If I'm honest, I've always liked the idea that they are quite a passionate crowd, and they stick with their team and all the rest of it. And they've always, in the past, played fairly decent football, and always wanted to be that sort of team. So. It's really disappointing to see them down there, and I hope they can start putting a run together. But obviously not this weekend. I want to see them absolutely smashed, to be honest with you, and I want Eddie Nketiah to keep hitting Rose Ed.
Lee, I'll give you a better fact that you might put a smile on your face. Spurs have won 15 of the past 18 Premier League games against Crystal Palace, drawing 2 and losing 1. The only defeat was a 3-0 defeat at Selhurst Park in September 2021. Harry, we have a fantastic record against Crystal Palace. What have you made of Palace so far this season?
Abysmal, absolutely abysmal. And the guys are right. It's not what we would have expected from Crystal Palace, but I think they got the whole transfer window wrong. I think they failed to. I think the right thing to do would have been to bring in that for Mark Gay. I don't think they're going to get any bigger sum for him in the future, but instead they let Anderson go for 30 million to Fulham. I don't think that was the right thing to do, and I think Elise has been a big miss. And that partnership with Eze, as Brian did talk about, but mainly for me, I think even bigger than that is using Joachim Anderson to Fulham, and they haven't really. They have replaced him in defence, but no one's really done his job, and they've really struggled. Dean Henderson as well. I don't think he's had the best start to life at Palace. Nketiah has been brought in, but it's not really what I'd call an Elise replacement. So a really strange transfer window. Some good recruitment, completely counteracted by some really poor business letting players go, and they've got the balance wrong. They could have brought in a lot more money in for Mark Gay. He's done that new stand they wanted, or expanded to Selhurst Park. And instead they've got rid of Anderson, got less for him, and I think he's really valuable, that wise head. And I think we'll see Fulham really push on and push for European places because of him. I think he hasn't been seen, but real leadership from defence. So it hasn't really worked out for Palace, but when they have players like Eze, that anything is capable. He takes lots of shots, gets in good positions, takes free kicks. So we have to be careful of that at the weekend. But it hasn't been a good start for Palace. I don't think it's right to question Glasner's future. I know only 8 games in. If this continues, of course, but our record, as you can see on the screen there, is very good for Spurs, and hopefully we can keep it up this weekend. There's no reason why we shouldn't. Statistically, look at the table.
The last 5 results in the Premier League for Crystal Palace, draws against Leicester and Manchester United, and narrow defeats against Everton, Liverpool and Nottingham Forest. They're not a pushover, are they, Brian?
No, they aren't. And it's been the odd goal or just a bad rub of the green. But I have to say, I completely forgot what Harry just mentioned, that they also sold... what's the defender's name to Fulham again?
Anderson,
Anderson, yeah. I mean, what a blow! I think he's a brilliant defender. We've obviously been a few times. You've lost him, Annalise, and he's a fantastic defender. So that's a huge void to fill. They are a very tough team to play against, but I think one of their best players, from what I'm hearing, Wharton, is out, and I think he's a magnificent player. It just goes to show you can find players in the Championship. He is a big loss to them.
We were linked to him as well.
Yeah. But this is the thing. You never know. This is the thing. You just don't know what's going to happen when you play Palace. And hopefully, like you said, I didn't realise our record was that strong against them. I thought we'd had a couple more losses in recent times, but my God, that's a lot better stat than the one you said a bit about the ex-Filth player. But let's just hope that run continues. But yeah, Crystal Palace, I've seen them a few times. They just have had that. And what's Mateta, who ended the season on fire, is just basically showing the clear sign of how Palace have started. He ended on fire, just like they had. This season, he's not scoring. And if you know, he looks like the only one capable of doing it apart from Eze.
The Crystal Palace manager, Oliver Glasner, has come out and said he expects an intensive game. They've said that Spurs have a great midfield and a lot of pace in defence. Palace team news, Decore is out, injured. Goalkeeper Matt Turner is back in the squad. Now, let's hear from someone in the know at Crystal Palace because, of course, he used to play for him. Clinton Morrison, former Crystal Palace striker, played for Palace between 98 and 2002, and then a second spell between 2005 and 2008. And now he's a current pundit on Sky Sports. This is his preview, Crystal Palace v Spurs.
So you want to ask me a few questions. So here it is. What have you made of Palace this season? And key players. Well, it's been a disappointing start to the season. I think when you lose players like Joachim Maddison and in particular Michael Elise, you're going to miss quality. Elise was fantastic with Eze last season, and Anderson and Mark Gahey were a fantastic partnership at the back. So it's been a slow start. So, yeah, it's been a bit disappointing start to the season, but I still think Palace will be all right. They've got enough good players in the team, enough quality. I think the key players are probably Mark Gahey, Eze, and Adam Wharton. He hasn't been 100% fit this season, but Adam Wharton and also Decore in there. So they're the four key players that I would say for Palace. Your next question, what have you made of Spurs? Spurs have been good this season, really good. A bit inconsistent at the start. Like, obviously, the Brighton game was obviously disappointing, but then you look at the Man United game where they were outstanding and was on the front foot and scored a lot of goals. And, yeah, I think Spurs have been really good this season. And, yeah, it's a team, obviously, I like a lot, and it's a team close to my heart. So, yeah, I hope they do well this season. I do like Brennan Johnson as well. I think he's done ever so well to turn it around at Tottenham, and long may it continue. He's in brilliant form, and that's what happens when you're a young player. You get confidence, and he's full of confidence. Another question, will Ange be successful at Spurs? Yeah, I think Ange will be successful at Spurs. I think he's a very good manager. It's an attacking style and it's really open, but every other club I think he's been to, he's always won trophies, and he said he will win a trophy at Spurs. So I do think he'll be successful, and I do think he'll win a trophy at Spurs. I don't know what trophy, but I do think he'll win a trophy. And so, yeah, you've asked me that. And how do you think the game will go on Sunday? Wow. How would the game... Listen, I think the form Tottenham are in, they're probably favourites, and Palace haven't been in good form. So it's going to be a difficult game. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go... I think the game will finish 1-1. I think Selhurst Park's a hard place to go, or it might be 2-2, but there'll be goals in it. But I do think it will be a draw. That's for you, Chris, Spurs Chat Podcast. All the best. Take care.
Ryan, Clinton Morrison didn't like giving a prediction there, did he?
No, he's a Spurs fan, isn't he? It'll be very interesting to see what he says on Soccer Saturday when they do the build-up to this game, see what he says. No, he seemed kind of hard-pressed. He thought, Joe, what, I'm going to sit on that fence, get some splinters, and go 1-1.
Lee, let's come to you. I just want to talk about James Maddison, because in the press conference, Ange Postecoglou was asked a question about leadership with James Maddison. Of course, he was very, very disappointed coming off at half-time against West Ham, but then was given the captain's armband for the Europa League game against AZ. Ange come out and said that he showed real leadership. Now, if James Maddison, and it is expected that James Maddison will start this game against Palace, he will make his 200th Premier League appearance. What have you made of him, and do you see him as a real leader in this team?
To be honest, I thought what Ange did in terms of James Maddison, taking him off when he was playing ever so well, and then putting him in as captain in the very next game showed really good man management. I think it's really good man management from Ange there. letting him know that he is still a main man in that squad and someone that he can rely on. I thought Maddison with the whole penalty situation with Richie, I thought was brilliant. I absolutely thought that was brilliant. You could see, I've watched the video of him, someone from the crowd, where he's standing there waiting to take the goal, and you could literally see the cogs turning in his head, thinking to himself, actually, this is probably a really good idea for Richie to take this, because strikers are kind of judged on their goals and their contribution, and that he's been in a big injury, he wants to get off the mark and all the rest of it. It means more to him than it does to me. And I thought that showed really good maturity and really good leadership, and would show a lot to the others, to the rest of the team, about what he's all about. So I was really, really pleased to see that. And it kind of made me think, actually, from a leadership point of view, he did really, really well. I think the way he went around after the game as well to the young lads, kind of putting his arm around them, giving them a hug and giving them some words of wisdom and stuff, again, thought was really good. And the way he talked in his interview as well, I thought it all came across really, really well. So I was really pleased for him, and that game really kind of summed it up for me in what he's about. I like James Maddison anyway. I think he's a really good character to have around the club. But yeah, for me, that kind of summed it up really, and made me feel a lot better about his leadership qualities.
Harry, I feel like we're seeing even more leadership on the pitch. Players like Mickey van der Ven and Kulusevski, now captain of Sweden. It's great having so many leaders on the pitch for us, isn't it? It seems different this season.
It does, yeah. There's been a lot of questions, hasn't there, Chris? Yeah, in the last few months or so, and since Dan just took over, who are the leaders in this team? So it's good to see people step up. Obviously, Vicario, part of that new vice captain team as well. As you said, Kulusevski for the country being Sweden. So no, it's really good to see. And Maddison, perfect example is that with the penalty. Originally, I was like, why's he taking it away from Richie? He really needs a goal, but he thought about it, didn't he? And it did give it to Richarlison. That is a good example of good captaincy, which Sean spoke about there. So no, it's really good to see. I think Romero could be a really good leader as well. As you said, Van der Ven. We saw Vicario, even I mentioned him just a second ago, but on the bench against AZ, if you watch it back, he's really vocal as well. And that's good to see. So there's leaders everywhere you look, and Son may not strike people as the obvious leader, but I'm sure has many leadership qualities. So no, it's really good to see you're taking responsibility on that pitch, and that's the kind of thing you're bringing up that Brighton game. I don't like to, but that's where you need a leader to go, right, okay, we've conceded one goal, we've conceded two, let's not concede another. Let's make sure, even if we go home with a draw, frustrating, 2 points dropped, but we still come away back home to Tottenham with something. There has to be someone to do that. And there's a lot of hands on hips in that situation. So I won't completely say we've solved our whole leaders' problems, but there's been positive signs, in particular the last few days, last few games. Chris, absolutely. People stepping up, taking that responsibility because they've got the ability to. It's just about that vocal side. So no, it's really good to see.
Ryan, when we look at the Premier League table, Spurs are 7th at the moment, 13 points from 8 games. 8 points away from league leaders Liverpool at the moment, and 4 points away from the top 4. When you look at that league table, what do you think that Spurs are good enough? What do we have enough for this season? Is it all about finishing in the top 4 for you?
No. For me, this season is all about ending that 16-year curse for a trophy. I'm not too concerned. Obviously, I don't want to finish in the bottom half of the table. I would rather us go. I think it's easier, as silly as this may sound, I think it's easier for us to win Europa League than get into the top 4. Such is the competition in there. And obviously the top 4 winning the Europa League gives us the objective of qualifying for the top 4 gets you. So for me, if anyone said top 4 or any trophy, I'm picking the trophy all the time. Do I think we're strong enough to get top 4? Right now, no. If I'm being honest, after 38 games, who knows what January may or might not bring. And that could change all of our perspectives. But right now, I am more concerned about ending that 16-year trophy drought as opposed to where we finish in the league.
Do I take it that Man City game next week, then you want to see a strong 11?
Oh, very much. So I said something on my Twitter the other week. If you looked at this block of international games, or the games before this next international break, and the Spurs 3-win fairy came down and granted you 3 victories, and the rest you rolled the dice for, I said AZ Alkmaar, Galatasaray, and Man City. I think those games are far more important. And obviously, Aston Villa will be a lovely win. But for me, those 3 games are the most important because we know how finishing high in the Europa League gets us to not play a second round, so to speak. So yeah, I want to see full strength against City.
Harry, I just want to come back to you because whenever I talk to younger fans, it always seems to be about the top 4. And you talk to the older fans, it always seems to be about the trophies. So if I asked you, if you could take one, either a top 4 finish or a League Cup win, what would you go for?
By that logic, I'm going with the older fans. So it has to be in this situation a trophy. I mean, Brian says there's 16 years. That is an awfully long time for a club like Tottenham Hotspur. So they absolutely use Manchester City as an example. The question to Brian, it has to be for me full strength, all guns blazing. And I think the league's of course important. Villa, I think that means a lot in terms of the top 4 battle, but it does have to be a trophy. And we're forgetting here, you win the Europa League. I know it's a lot harder this year, more games, and Man United, Galatasaray, Roma. There's still big teams in it, although we're probably favourites to at least get to the final. If you win the Europa League, you automatically qualify for the Champions League. So you're killing 2 birds with one stone there. Automatically, Carabao Cup, got to beat the best to be the best. Manchester City, you get through. All of a sudden, that opens up really nicely for us. So it's all about, isn't it, having that healthy squad, that really large squad with a lot of depth, which you have added this year. Whether it's enough or not, I think you could debate. But it'd be interesting to see how that kind of pans out. A lot of games as well, a couple of games a week. And before we get to the international break, we get a really good idea of what this season kind of looks like for Tottenham in terms of priorities, whether we'll still be in the League Cup or not. Galatasaray would have been played by their games like that. They're really big. Their first big test, I would say, in the Europa League. But yeah, Chris, answering your question without waffling, which I have already, it has to be trophy for me.
Yeah, I agree. Lee, I know we've spoken often about trophies. What Harry says there about the Europa League, of course, a new format, it does seem a hell of an opportunity for Spurs to go that one step further and perhaps, go strong and go and lift that trophy this year because, of course, the Champions League teams don't then come down to the Europa League. And next week's game, Man City, of course, the Premier League champions, Pep said that he's not going to waste any energy on this competition. Of course, their second team is going to be a very strong team anyway because they're full of quality. But when you look at it, what an opportunity Spurs have this season to go strong in these competitions and perhaps try and get over the line finally and lift that trophy. Because 2008, we all say it, 2008, such a long time for a club like Tottenham without a trophy. Yeah,
we've talked about this on numerous occasions, haven't we? And I've said so many times, winning a trophy is the most important thing. It's why we all get it, and remembering those days and remembering those competitions. Interestingly, I actually did for South Dorset Spurs. I hosted a legend night with Graham Roberts, and he had the UEFA Cup with him as well, and talked about the feeling and what that did for them as a team, and how that kind of made them who they were, and winning trophies was just so good for them. And hearing those stories just makes you think about the fact that you were there. Being older, I was there for those competitions. I've seen that happen, and you cannot describe to someone who's never seen a team win a trophy how good that is. And all these people that talk about top 4, that's just marketing. That's Sky TV, Premier League, and all that Champions. That's just marketing, right? Winning a trophy.
Tell Harry Lee he's not seen one yet.
I know, Harry. Honestly, I've literally when I was just a little bit older than probably about the same age as you, I was dancing in Trafalgar Square in the fountains with blue dye in my hair, watching Tottenham have just beat Man City in the FA Cup final. And it was one of the best things in my life. I'm nearly 60 years of age, and I can still remember it like it was yesterday. It's one of my favourite memories. So that's what football can do for you.
We need video footage of that, Lee. Yeah, but
mate, there wasn't even videos then. It was silly. So you've got no chance.
By the way, everyone, do check that interview out on Lee's channel. A great watch, and Graham Roberts, talking to him about lifting that UEFA Cup. It does seem a very, very long time ago, but yeah, great memories. Lastly, before I get all of your score predictions, let's hear from D from Back of the Nest podcast, a Crystal Palace fan channel, giving his thoughts ahead of this game.
What's going on, people? It is D from Back of the Nest, Crystal Palace fan channel, here for a quick preview ahead of the game on Sunday. First of all, thank you for having me on the channel. I'll be honest, it's not looking good on Palace's side of things, but I'm going to be explaining it all ahead of this game. So let's start off with the first question. What have you made of your season so far? The season so far, honestly, in terms of results-wise, it has been terrible. We haven't won a single game going into this one. 8 games, 0 wins in the league. We've got some wins in cup competitions. However, not good enough in terms of results in the league. Performance-wise, it hasn't been absolutely terrible. I mean, I think we've only conceded 11 goals in 8 games, which is not the worst thing in the world, especially if you're in the relegation zone. It just shows the problems that we have on the other end of the pitch, which is creating chances and finishing them off. We've been pretty much in all of the games so far this season, but the most recent game against Forest, it was the most disappointing one. We have had spells, for example, against Everton, where first half, absolutely brilliant. Probably our best half of football that we played all season long. And in the second half, after half time, we have a 10-minute spell where it's complete head loss. We concede 2 goals and the game is done like that. So we haven't been a terrible footballing side, but still it hasn't been good enough, especially going forward. In terms of creativity, I think the system's not working. Right now, of course, we've lost Elise, which I think is a massive miss, especially going forward, because you can't replace him in terms of his quality and what he can bring to the football club. However, we decided not to get another number 10 as we played 2 number 10s in Glasnow's system, and I think it's cost us so far. In terms of my thoughts on Tottenham so far this season under Ange Postecoglou, it's been weird. It's been weird looking from the outside in. You've had that, nice spell after the Arsenal defeat. But then before the Arsenal defeat, you had Arsenal defeat and the Newcastle defeat, which, put a little pressure on Ange Postecoglou. Then you had that nice spell. Then you had the second half against Brighton. In the first half, you absolutely dominated them. Second half, just, I don't know even what happened there. The players lost their heads. And then you'll go get some decent results against the likes of West Ham. So I think for a club like Tottenham, maybe it's been a bit inconsistent. I think the most annoying result probably is that Brighton one. However, I'm looking at the Newcastle game and what you've done there as well, thinking you must be disappointed with a result, with not getting a result there. So, yeah, I think Ange, of course, he's building something there. But the only question that I have over him is that he's very persistent with plan A. And you might get good results, as we've seen so far this season, and also some bad ones. But that's the thing. You need to be very consistent if you want to go and win something in this division, and also even in domestic divisions. And I just feel like there might be the odd game or two where he gets figured out and he doesn't want to change it. And that will cost you the bigger picture, such as, I don't know, a good cup run if you don't change it up against certain opponents, etc. So yeah, I think with Ange, I'm not going to get carried away and say, oh, he's the greatest thing to happen. I'm also not going to say, oh, it's not going to work. But it's just him being persistent with plan A, which is a very good plan, by the way, very exciting. I think Tottenham fans have needed that, especially with some of the managers that you've had in the past. It's just the end goal for Tottenham is to win trophies. Will he be able to win trophies with that over in England, whereas he has done it abroad? So that's the biggest question. And score prediction, 2-0 Spurs minimum. As I've said, Son is scoring against us, and I just think you lot have got too much quality, and we're just lacking going forward to do anything unless something drastically changes from the Forest game to this game, which I think that drastic change comes from the manager if he changes his system. But yeah, this is the life of a Palace fan. You got a bit of hope towards the end of last season, and then you started the season thinking, oh, wow, we can actually kick on. We've got a European winning manager. And then here we are, after 8 games, still without a win, facing Spurs at home. But look, thanks for having me on the channel. If you do want to see more Palace content, check out Back of the Nest on YouTube. But appreciate you all the best of luck for the rest of the season, apart from Sunday. But that's it from me. Thank you.
Brian, let's come to you. Of course, Clinton Morrison went for a draw, 1-1 or 2-2. D has gone for a 2-0 Spurs win. Says that Son will score, but of course he won't. But let's hope that it is a 2-0 win. But one stat here, Tottenham have kept one clean sheet in 15 top-flight London derbies during Ange Postecoglou's time at Tottenham, and that was a 2-0 home win against Fulham back in October 2023. Now, I've got two last questions for all of you. Yep. Score prediction for Sunday's game. And Brian, you prompted this because you mentioned it. The transfer window is just a couple of months away, the January window. What do you think Spurs will be? What do you think will be on Ange Postecoglou's shopping list for January?
Okay, so first of all, I will say, what an incredible analysis by that Crystal Palace fan. Very, very level-headed, spoke brilliantly. Fair play to him.
He's a great guest, actually, Brian, and that is a shortened version. The longer version will actually be out sometime tomorrow, so do check it out.
Yeah, I will do it. Really, really refreshing to see, like a level-headed fan talk about his team in the way that he did. Really, really good. I will check that out. I think it's going to be 3-1 us. I can't see us keeping that. I was going to say that before you said the clean sheet thing. But the one thing I saw a stat when everyone's saying about our defence not being able to keep clean sheets, I saw that with Van der Ven and Romero both playing, we've only conceded more than 2 goals on 3 occasions. So that's, you know what I mean? That's not bad with all the time they've played, but I can see it being a 3-1. I think we will overpower them. So I'm going for a 3-1 win for Spurs and to keep the good run coming on, or start another winning run, shall I say, make it 3-3. When you say what do we need in the transfer window, what we're going to get, I think it comes to a part of what we're going to need, because I think you look at it, as I said at the beginning, I think we need that really classy, and I do mean classy winger. And I don't think you can get him in a January deal. I don't think you can see a team going, do you know what? Here's whatever we spend for what player X and this amount. I don't think it happens. If I said we could sign 2 players, or what I would be looking for, I think we need another left back as a matter of urgency, and probably a goalkeeper. Even though Forster had that game, I would love us to have a goalkeeper along the lines of Liverpool's second goal. I'm not saying go get him, because we won't, but that Kelleher is the most incredible number 2 for Liverpool. Like, you look at the drop-off that Hugo Lloris had, and obviously Vicario's got now, the drop-off, they're just goalkeepers. Well, if we need to rest him or he's suspended, you'll come in, or injured. So I think what we desperately need as a cover and easy to get would be a left-back and another goalkeeper. If I could sign 2 players, I think they are the most important. Then go all out for that winger in the summer.
Brian, I know you and I have spoken at length about this on a couple of podcasts before. You, in the past couple of years, it's very fair to say, have been very critical of the club, the way it's run, how things have been done. Are you in a position now to say that you believe that Ange Postecoglou is being backed and the recruitment has been very different to what it was?
The recruitment has got better. I will say that. Have we maybe lost out on a couple of players because we wouldn't pay the money on that? That's up for debate. But you can say players have come in. Things have looked better under Ange. They're still not 100% to what I deem acceptable for a club like Tottenham Hotspur, and I would hope a few more marquee players if Ange wants them. But yeah, I don't think. I do think recruitment has been better. Ange is getting the players he wants, and let that continue. But let's hope that these deals come in and we can get some real, genuine quality, not just ones for the future and build. Let's hope some genuine, established quality comes in. But my reflection on the man you're talking about still hasn't changed, especially after today when I heard Roma prices.
Lee, let's come to you. Score prediction and transfer window. What positions do you think Ange will want to strengthen in?
So I actually think that this could be a game where we keep a clean sheet. So my predictions that I've been asked for before, I've gone with a 2-0. So I'll stick with that. I'll stick with a 2-0. I can't. I really think this is the one where we get the clean sheet. In terms of transfer window activity, I think Brian's fairly spot on. To be honest with you, I think left back is a position we really need someone else to come in through. The rest of it's quite difficult though, right? Because we've got players in there that are able to play in lots of different positions. So, your Archie Gray can play, right back, left back, midfield. Jed Spence has shown that he can play left back and right back. But I guess the other one for me, winger. But I would particularly like someone for the right hand side for Brennan Johnson. I know Kulu can play out there. I know Odebear can play out there. I know that Mikey Moore can play out there. But for me, I've always felt they played better on the left. So I feel like we've got the left some cover in there more than the right hand side. Probably a goalkeeper, but the goalkeeper is such a difficult one because predominantly they're going to just sit on the bench. So you kind of want someone who's prepared to do that, but has the ability, and that's not going to be easy to come by because they don't get as many opportunities maybe as an outfield player. But yeah, for me, someone for the right wing would be brilliant. But definitely someone at left wing back for cover for Udogie, who I think is brilliant. But he can't play every game. He's not going to be able to play every game, and we need some cover there.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-1 Spurs win on Sunday. And in terms of the transfer window, I agree with you guys. I think that perhaps let Timo Werner go out the door in January, bring in another winger if we can. Although I do agree with you, Brian, it is very, very tricky and difficult sometimes to get the players that you really want in a January window. We might need to wait for the summer window. But if there are any, and I know you hate this word, opportunities, if there are any decent opportunities of players of real quality coming in to strengthen us in the Europa League squad, and of course that push for a top European place, Champions League, might add, then we need to grab it. But I do think the recruitment has been a lot better recently, and long may that continue. Harry, lastly, let's get your score prediction and what you'd like to see happen in the January window.
Yeah, so my score prediction in this game, I'm going to go with 2-1 Spurs. I think a very conservative result. I don't think that we keep a clean sheet. I think Palace, they do have attacking talent. It's whether they're on it or not. And I think that Gaz is right. I think they will put up a good fight, but I think we just have too much of them in the end. A stronger bench, more depth, more pace and quality coming on to effect. So I think we'll take the game away from Palace. I think it'll be a 1-1 for a long period of time, but we'll get that winner kind of late on. So a nice victory that will feel really nice. In terms of the transfer window, I think there's a list between, a big difference, should I say, between what would be nice and what we essentially need. There's a lot of things for the summer. It's been mentioned, for example, that number 2 goalkeeper, Fraser Forster. I think that could completely wait for the summer. However, there are more urgent things that cover for a doggy. Love Davis, but I think as a centre-back, not as a left-back in this Ange system, I don't think he's capable of inverting. Well, I said disrespectful to Davis, but I don't think we can get the best out of him playing that way in that kind of midfield. I just don't think that's a bit of him at all. Quality winger. I think we've got a lot of wingers at this club, but whether we've got the quality or not, I think is up for debate. And I do think, we have talked a lot about Werner, and I have certainly not shied away from kind of standing up for him, if you like, and saying it has been a confidence thing. But I do think it is a serious possibility that he does leave in January, a fresh start for him. I don't think that's something that should be ruled out. And if so, Lee's right, someone on that right-hand side to compete with Johnson, because we dealt with Johnson picking up an injury from playing too many games. And we don't need that as well. We might have games with a new format. We need someone as well to compete on the right. I don't think there's any case scenario where we should go, unless it's an emergency injury crisis, which you saw at times last season, that Kulusevski should have to play on the right. So, yes, a few things that left back, and really is not nothing big. A lot of it depends on injuries and how from now, because a lot can happen from now until January. I know it's not far away, but for all we know, Van der Ven and Udogie could get injured, and then I think we have a problem, and we have to go down the centre back route in the January transfer window. So we'll have to see how it goes. Nothing urgent, of course. There's always room for improvement to add depth and make that second team stronger. Also, the first 11, not only buying players for the future, but improving what we've got now.
Yeah. Well, let's hope this winning run does continue. So it's going to be a tough 7-8 days coming up. Crystal Palace away, of course, Man City in the Cup, and then Aston Villa in the Premier League at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Brian, thank you so much for joining me this evening. If there's anything that we haven't covered and you want to talk about it, say it now. Otherwise, promote your YouTube channel and what you're up to at the moment.
I thought we were getting married there. I thought you were going to say, "Oh, forever hold your peace." At the end. No, listen, thank you once again, Chris, for having me on. Nothing more to mention. Yeah, people can find myself and the rest of the gang on Tottenham on Tour. Normally daily content, morning and evening time UK. And we will be back with our review of the Crystal Palace win, please God, on a show we aptly name Anja Management. And that'll be Monday, midday UK time. And like I said, Chris, once again, thanks for having me back on.
Well, thank you so much. I tell you, if it's not me putting content out, it's you, Brian. If it's not you, it's Harry. If it's not you, it's Lee. It's, the viewers are spoiled for all of these choices of all these YouTube channels covering Tottenham Hotspur. Lee, of course, you've started your new podcast and you've recently gone live with it. Talk us through it. Where can people find you?
Yeah, I kind of resisted for so long, Chris, haven't I? Trying to do it. I've kind of kept things really low key and just giving my opinions as a miserable old fart. I kind of post games and stuff like that. But I kind of got badgered into doing something along these lines, just a weekly show to review what's happened in the previous week. So I've been doing that with a couple of good pals of mine, and that comes out on a Tuesday. And we went live for the first time because it's a bit different hosting than it is just answering questions. A bit more prep and a bit more work goes into it. So I was always a bit nervous of it, but thanks for your help in getting me over that. It went okay, I think. Lots to learn, lots to get better at. But yeah, if you want to follow me or you want to try check out my channel, it's just Leader Dorset Spur. You'll find me on there, and everyone's welcome. All opinions are valid.
Well, Lee, thank you so much and best of luck with that. And Harry, great to have you here for the first time. Hopefully we can get you back on again very soon. You've been a fantastic guest for your first show on this channel, so a pleasure to have you here. Where can people find you? Are you still posting daily content?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me. It's really good. Really looking forward to this. And I'd love to come back on anytime. So thank you very much for having me. Hopefully a win, Palace at the weekend. You talked about the next few games. Hopefully it all goes well for Spurs is what we want. As a fan base. But yeah, you can find me at Harry Scarfe 22 on all socials, TikTok, X, etc., Instagram, with daily content, but also have my own YouTube channel, Scarfe Spurs. So you can find England, Spurs and Premier League content, cover Spurs women as well. England in the international break, have a Premier League show. It's all good. So thank you very much for having me, Chris.
He covers it all, so get over there and hit that subscribe button. Lee, Brian, Harry, thank you so much for your time. Thanks to James and best of luck to him raising money for the Tottenham Foodbank. All of the details are below, so please do support that. A very, very worthy cause. Thank you so much to Clinton, Morrison, and thank you to Dee from the Back of the Nest podcast. And hopefully, as Harry said, hopefully Spurs can continue this winning run, beat Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park, and then hopefully we can beat the champions Manchester City and go through to the next round of the Carabao Cup. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks for watching as normal. Thank you so much for all of your support. And remember that all of these podcasts are available on audio platforms. As I say, have a great weekend and come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, Spurs.